You walk into a room, and before a single word is spoken, before laughter, small talk, or glance is exchanged, something stirs. You feel it in your chest, in the way your skin sharpens, in the way time hesitates for half a breath. It's not their voice that reaches you first. It's their posture, their eyes, the way their feet angle ever so slightly toward you. Something inside you translates what they don't say. This is the language no one teaches you. And yet, it's the first one you ever learned. From the moment you were born, your body spoke for you. Long before you formed thoughts, your muscles clenched in fear, your breath quickened in joy, and your gaze locked in longing. The body is the original truth teller. It reveals desires even we are unaware of. When someone is drawn to you, their body whispers it before their mouth ever dares. But we live in a world that worships words and punishes silence. We're trained to analyze sentences, dissect logic, decode tone. And in doing so, we miss the raw, unfiltered data pulsing just beneath the surface. Eye contact held too long. A hand brushing yours a second too late to be accidental. A shoulder leaned in when it could have leaned away. You've noticed it before. You just didn't know what to call it. That moment when you speak in a group and someone across the room mirrors your expression. Or when you say something vulnerable and another person's pupils dilate ever so slightly. Attraction doesn't always walk up to you and announce itself. It lingers, unfolds, hesitates, and you feel it, because your body has always known. You begin to realize that communication isn't just verbal, it's vibrational. Every slight gesture carries emotional weight. Every shift in posture sends a signal. And these signals bypass intellect entirely. They travel through a different channel, one designed not for interpretation, but for resonance. They land in your gut, your breath, your chest, and you often respond before you understand. So what is it that your body is trying to tell you? More importantly, what is theirs? Think back. Think to a moment when you felt a strange warmth in the presence of someone who never complimented you, never flirted directly, but somehow you knew. Their attention lingered just a second longer. They positioned themselves near you, even in crowded spaces. They found reasons to share small moments with you. You didn't imagine it. You just translated it before your mind caught up. The body is not neutral. It is a mirror, and it constantly reflects where the soul wants to go, but doesn't yet have permission. But permission from whom? Sometimes from the self. Sometimes from the stories we were taught. Sometimes from the fear of being exposed. Because when the body speaks, when it reveals interest, tension, desire, it is terrifyingly honest. And honesty in the realm of attraction is vulnerability in its rawest form. To understand attraction is not to analyze it like a cold scientist, but to feel it like a poet with skin. To read the body like a sacred text, line by line, movement by movement. Because what we call body language is not just communication, it's revelation. You begin to notice how the eyes betray interest long before the smile confirms it. How a lean in means more than a compliment. How the rhythm of someone's breathing syncs with yours when they feel safe. Attraction is less about words and more about gravity. Two bodies, consciously or unconsciously drawn into orbit. But here is the paradox. The more you become fluent in this language, the more you see how much goes unsaid in every interaction you've ever had, how many signals you missed, and how many truths were whispered in posture and never heard. It's not about becoming paranoid, it's about becoming aware. You begin to feel the difference between politeness and presence, between a smile that says, "I'm being nice," and one that says, "I feel pulled toward you and I don't know why." Between a casual glance and a delayed one, the kind that lingers just half a second too long, betraying a thought not meant to escape. You notice how someone's feet point toward you in a room full of options, how they mimic your gestures without realizing it, how they speak with a different rhythm when it's you they're addressing. The truth is, most people don't even know what their body is saying. That's why attraction often feels mystical, because it emerges from a place deeper than language, deeper than thought. It emerges from the unconscious, and the unconscious is always speaking. To become fluent in the silent language of the body is to learn how to see. Not just look, but see. You begin to understand that humans are constantly broadcasting emotional frequencies. Some people speak in signals, some in shields, but all bodies speak. Some lean forward, asking to be seen. Others freeze, terrified of being noticed. Some retreat, even as their eyes plead to be pursued. It's all there, hidden in plain sight. You realize now that the body never lies. It simply waits for you to notice. This is the beginning of a new awareness, a sacred decoding, not of what people say, but of what they reveal in the spaces between their words. And it all starts when you stop listening with your ears and start listening with your skin.
The eyes don't lie, but they whisper. It's strange, isn't it? How something as small as a glance can hold the weight of an entire confession. You felt it before, that quiet intensity when someone looks at you, not with politeness, not with distraction, but with something else, something that lingers. The truth is, the eyes are not just windows to the soul. They are messengers of instinct, shaped by centuries of silent survival. While the mouth fumbles with words, the eyes are always on time. Honest, bare, vulnerable. And what's more fascinating is this: the eyes don't shout, they whisper. They offer just enough for the emotionally fluent to hear them. The eyes are the first to speak. Before words, before touch, before conscious recognition, the eyes speak. Babies know this. They study the human face with unmatched intensity. They don't understand language, but they read. They sense safety or threat, comfort or chaos, by looking into another's gaze. Over time, we lose this skill. We get busy interpreting what people say rather than how they truly feel. But the subconscious never forgets. It still catches those microsignals, even if you can't name them yet. That's where you begin to reclaim power, in remembering what you already know. Desire has a shape. When someone desires you, their pupils dilate. Not always dramatically, but subtly. It's automatic, uncontrollable, the body's own confession. You might not consciously notice it, but your instincts do. Dilated pupils feel magnetic. They make a person look more alive, more drawn in, more human. Attraction also plays with the shape of the eyes. When we're curious or drawn in, the eyes soften. Eyebrows lift. There's a delay in the blink. The stare lingers a beat too long. It's not creepy, it's unconscious surrender. And when fear or disinterest enters the picture, the opposite happens. Eyelids tighten. The gaze hardens. Pupils constrict. The energy recoils. You've seen this. You've felt this. You just weren't trained to interpret it. The geometry of emotion. Eyes widen in surprise, narrow in suspicion, tilt in sadness. But there's more than just the obvious expressions. The real magic lives in the in-between. For instance, watch how someone's eyes behave when they think no one is watching. Do they light up around certain people? Do they avoid? Do they scan or do they settle? People are not as composed as they believe. Their gaze betrays them, especially when it comes to hidden desire. One key pattern: rechecking. If someone looks at you, then away, then back again, that second glance is loaded. It wasn't reflex, it was curiosity returning. That double take, it's not just visual, it's psychological, the power of prolonged eye contact. There's a reason long eye contact feels so intimate, almost invasive. It triggers the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for emotions and survival instincts. It says, alert, this matters. That's why we look away when we're nervous, why we can't hold a stare when we're lying, why lovers, when alone, often don't speak. They just look. Long eye contact invites exposure. You drop your masks. You risk being seen. And in a world that often rewards invisibility, that's terrifying. But it's also healing. Micro movements, the secrets between the blinks. Eye contact isn't binary. It's not just held or broken. It moves. And in those tiny movements, entire truths are written. A rapid blink rate often signals anxiety, overstimulation, or excitement. A single long blink, especially after hearing something meaningful, may reflect processing, hesitation, or internal alignment. A squint could mean confusion or suspicion, but paired with a soft smile, interest. Pay attention not to what someone looks at, but how they look at it. Is their gaze scanning or focused? Drifting or anchored? Controlled or impulsive? Their eyes are mapping you, even if they don't know it yet, when eyes mirror your emotion. There's something uncanny that happens in moments of deep connection. The eyes begin to reflect, not just visually, but emotionally. If you're sad and someone truly empathizes, their eyes often fill too, even if their expression doesn't. If you're excited and someone shares your joy, their gaze brightens, the pupils dance, the micromuscles soften. This is what resonance looks like. It's not mimicry, it's syncing. You don't fake this, you don't force this. It only happens when there's alignment beneath the surface, and in those moments, you feel it. A silent yes. Marilyn Monroe and the tilted gaze. Marilyn Monroe wasn't just beautiful, she knew how to use her eyes. One of her most powerful tools, the tilted gaze. Chin down, eyes up. It creates a sense of vulnerability, playfulness, submission mixed with power. It disarms. It intrigues. In contrast, chin up with a sideways glance signals confidence, challenge, sometimes even contempt. Both are effective. Both tell a story. How someone looks at you is also always about how they feel about themselves. The whisper you've always heard. You've noticed things before without knowing why. Someone looking at you too quickly when you enter the room. A brief flash of envy. A softened gaze that lasted a second too long. You weren't imagining it, you just didn't know how to trust it. But now you're beginning to, because you're learning the language of attention. Not spoken attention, but felt attention. The attention that exists even in the silence. The truth behind averted gaze. Avoidance doesn't always mean disinterest. Sometimes it means too much interest. Someone may look away because looking at you feels exposing. This is especially true in early attraction. The gaze dips, the lips tighten, the person fidgets. They're not bored, they're overwhelmed. It's not the absence of emotion, it's the overflow. And it's your awareness of that overflow that changes how you read the moment. When two gaze patterns dance, you might not even realize it, but the way you look influences how others look back. Eye contact is reciprocal, interactive. If you soften your gaze, others do too. If you linger, they might match it, or retreat, if it's too vulnerable. But when both people hold, not with force, but with trust, something wordless passes between them. Recognition, curiosity, permission, a kind of spiritual handshake, one that precedes every meaningful connection. But attraction doesn't just live in the eyes. It vibrates through the voice. And here's what it really says. The hidden codes in the voice. You've been listening to voices your entire life, but have you ever truly heard them? Not the words, not the stories, not the surface-level sounds that everyone else clings to. No, I mean the breath between the syllables, the stutter in the middle of a confident sentence, the sudden softness when someone says your name. Because if the body is the stage and the eyes are the spotlight, then the voice is the trembling violin that plays in the background, often ignored, yet impossible to forget once you finally start hearing it. Let's begin there, with the first sound you likely ever heard, a heartbeat in the womb, a rhythm, a vibration, a pulse. Before language, before logic, your body was already learning to trust rhythm, and it still does. Whispers in the frequency. Every voice carries three messages: what they say, what they want you to think they feel, and what their nervous system is actually screaming underneath it all. But you've been trained, like most people, to focus on the words. Words are clean, easy to quote, safe to analyze. But voices are messy, emotional, alive. They tremble when someone's scared. They drop an octave when they're attracted. They speed up when someone's lying. Listen carefully, and the voice will betray every carefully rehearsed sentence they speak. Pitch, the emotional barometer. There's a reason your heart races when someone says your name in a deeper tone. A voice's pitch is not random. It is the sound of emotional altitude. When someone is calm, their pitch lowers, like a riverbed settling. When they're nervous or trying to impress, their pitch rises like a balloon reaching too fast for the sky. But here's the secret. Attraction almost always lowers the voice, for men and women. Why? Because evolution rewards the soothing, the grounded, the safe. And that safety, it travels in frequencies your body understands even if you've never consciously noticed. So start now. Watch for the breath that doesn't match the words, because that's where the real story hides. Pauses, where the truth echoes. Silence is not the absence of communication, it is the magnifying glass. A pause before a response can mean hesitation or emotional weight. A long exhale after a compliment can mean vulnerability or resistance. But here's the most fascinating part. Attraction lives in asymmetry. When two people are rhythmically in sync, the pauses start to align. They breathe in at the same time. They laugh within the same millisecond. They interrupt and finish each other, not rudely, but rhythmically. It's called vocal mirroring, and you cannot fake it. The shape of the sound. There's something hypnotic about someone who speaks in curves, not lines. Pay attention. Do their sentences rise and fall like waves? Do they linger on the end of certain syllables? Do they repeat key words unconsciously, as if their mind can't help but echo the truth? That's how the voice becomes a fingerprint. In attraction, the musicality of speech increases. People slow down, soften certain consonants, exaggerate vowels. Why? Because your nervous system is trying to become pleasing to the other, audibly, emotionally, rhythmically. Echoes in the gender divide. Men and women, or more accurately, masculine and feminine energies, express vocal attraction differently. Masculine voices often drop in pitch, become slower, more controlled, conveying dominance, stability. feminine voices tend to soften, become melodic, playful, conveying openness, curiosity. These are not rules, they are tendencies. Tendencies shaped by thousands of years of survival, mating, and instinct. But here's what matters. When someone is drawn to you, truly drawn, their voice shifts toward what they think you'll find most resonant. Not most intelligent, not most impressive, most resonant. Because resonance is connection, and connection always trumps performance. The confession hidden in the cadence. Think of how people speak when they're excited. The words tumble, the rhythm quickens. There's almost a musical staccato in their sentences. Now think of how someone speaks when they're trying to hide something. Long pauses, unusual starts and stops, overcorrecting. Cadence is a confession. You can hear someone's anxiety in the way they rush. You can feel their guilt in the words they linger too long on. You can sense desire in the effortless flowing rhythm, like the voice is dancing. This is why we love hearing a crush speak. Not because of what they say, but because their voice has become a rhythm we want to get lost in. When the voice matches the eyes. Earlier, we spoke of the eyes, how they whisper, how they reveal what words conceal. But here's the moment of alignment. When someone's voice matches their eyes, you're no longer decoding, you're feeling. That's when the mask drops. That's when the personality fades. That's when you're speaking to their nervous system, and they're speaking to yours. When the tremble in the voice matches the softness in the gaze, when the tone aligns with the eye's confession, that's when the body starts to relax. That's when connection begins. Listen like a scientist, feel like a poet. So how do you decode someone's voice? Start by listening like a scientist. Break down their pitch. Notice their breath. Track their pauses. Map their rhythm. But don't stop there. Feel like a poet. Notice how their voice makes your body feel. Do you lean in? Do you breathe slower? Do you feel safer? Your body knows long before your brain can articulate it. Because you were trained in this language long before you ever spoke a single word. You've just forgotten how to listen. But now you remember. And now you're wondering, if the voice carries such truth, what happens when they do finally speak? What happens when the words come? The answer is not what you think. But no connection can form without words. And when they do speak, it's not what they say, but how they say it.
Listen to the voice. Not just the sound of it, but the fluctuations, the stumbles, the silent gaps between syllables. You've heard how attraction trembles in a breath held too long, how tension reveals itself in the way a name is pronounced, how desire makes itself known not in a confession, but in a pause. And now we reach the final layer before the pattern forms. Words. Not as weapons, not as instruments of persuasion, but as invitations, as accidental mirrors, as small revealing threads that, when woven together, start forming a bridge from one soul to another. It begins in the margins, in the by the way, in the yeah, exactly, in the I know what you mean. These are not casual phrases. They are linguistic fingerprints. Subconscious patterns that reveal when someone wants to feel close without saying they do. The subtle hooks of human connection. Most people listen for content, but content is surface. Connection lives in the structure, in how something is said, not just what is said. Think of it like emotional origami. The shape of the words tell you more than their color. When someone is attracted to you, emotionally, intellectually, or magnetically, their sentences change form.
They start using tag questions. You know what I mean, right? Isn't that crazy? That's true, don't you think? Why do they do this? Because a tag question is a silent reach for alignment. It's not about information, it's about verification. They want to confirm, do you see the world the way I do? It's an emotional fishing line. They cast it out softly, hoping you'll pull back. The "yeah, exactly" effect. You're in a conversation, they say something ordinary, and you respond without thinking. Yeah, exactly. Seems trivial, right? But when two people are starting to emotionally mirror each other, this phrase appears more and more. Exactly. Totally. That's what I was thinking. Why? Because finishing someone's thought, even in small ways, becomes a ritual of merging. When someone finishes your sentence or says what you were just about to say, it's not just coincidence. It's cognitive coupling. The mind begins to synchronize. And once that happens, emotions follow, because the brain equates shared language with shared reality. And there is no more intoxicating feeling than, you see me exactly the way I see myself. Here's something curious. When people like each other, they interrupt each other. Not out of disrespect, but excitement. The brain speeds up, thoughts collide. There's a tug of war for airtime, not because they want to dominate, but because they want to belong. They want to be heard, to contribute, to be part of your sentence. So they speak over you. They echo your last word. They jump in before you finish. This might feel chaotic, but it's also a sign. It means their mind is dancing with yours, and if you let it, the rhythm becomes irresistible. The awkward pause that doesn't break. Then comes the silence, and you wait to see what kind it is. Because silence has many shapes. There's the awkward pause, the one people scramble to fill. But then there's the other kind. The soft silence, the open pause, the one that doesn't feel uncomfortable even if it lasts a little too long. This is not a breaking connection, it's a deepening. Because when two people are attuned, silence isn't empty. It's shared space. It's unspoken agreement. It's the inhale between emotional waves. And in that silence, the body relaxes. The breath slows. The eyes linger. The words might have stopped, but the communication is louder than ever. The stumble, the laugh, the reveal. There's another sign. It lives in the nervous energy. A misplaced laugh, a voice crack, a word repeated. I was going to say, no, yeah, it's funny. These aren't just speech errors. They're micro reveals, small emotional leaks that occur when someone's guard is lowered, but they don't know what to do with the vulnerability that slips out. They cover it with a joke. They deflect with sarcasm. They hide behind detours and diversions. But the message has already been sent. You just have to know how to read it. Thread by thread, they weave a bridge. All of this, the tag questions, the yeah exactlys, the sentence overlaps, the nervous laughter, these are not noise. They're threads, invisible strings, laid down gently, one by one. And when someone wants to connect with you, not just politely, but truly, they weave those threads across the gap between you, until suddenly there's a bridge. Not built by logic, not constructed by effort, but formed by rhythm and resonance and repeated reach. And without even realizing it, you've walked across. But you still wonder, is it real? You've seen the signs, you've heard the voice, you've decoded the gestures, the glances, the glimmers between words. And yet, part of you still wonders. Could it be politeness? A social script? A kind performance? You want something concrete, something undeniable, something that not just feels real, but proves it. And there is one final layer, one signal that doesn't lie, not because it's loud, but because it's repeated, consistently, subconsciously, over time. A pattern. And if you learn how to spot it, you'll never have to ask again.
But even with all the right signs, how do you know it's not just politeness? There's one final piece most people miss: the pattern that proves they feel it too. You've seen the tremble in their eyes. You've felt the pull in their silence. And now you're standing on the edge of something unspoken, something so subtle it escapes logic, yet so undeniable it leaves you haunted. Attraction, interest, connection, whatever name you give it, doesn't scream. It echoes. It doesn't declare itself. It repeats itself. The final signal isn't loud or dramatic. It's patterned. And if you know how to spot it, you'll realize they've already told you everything. Not with their words, not even with their eyes, but with how they keep returning to your rhythm, to your energy, to you. The law of echoes. Have you ever noticed how people in love begin to resemble each other? The same speech rhythms, the same posture, even the same facial expressions. It's not magic, it's not coincidence, it's pattern recognition. Because the body and mind crave harmony, and when someone truly resonates with you, they subconsciously begin to reflect you. Not because they're trying, but because they can't help it. Their nervous system synchronizes, their rhythm adjusts, and over time, their entire presence becomes a quiet mirror of yours. Attraction doesn't just create connection, it creates imitation. Like dancers who start in different corners of the room, but slowly, step by step, find themselves moving in sync. It starts with the obvious, but the real magic is in the things they don't even realize they're doing. Feet first, the direction of desire. You're in a room, they're across from you. Maybe you're talking, maybe you're not. But glance down. Their feet aren't facing the exit. They're pointed toward you. This isn't random. Feet are primal, the most honest part of body language. Before the face was trained to smile politely, before words were rehearsed, the feet were already choosing. They aim at comfort, they aim at desire. And if someone's feet consistently find you, even when their words don't, that's a signal. A soft echo of interest, a subconscious confession. Because while people can lie with their mouths, the feet, they always point to what the heart wants. The rhythm of the voice. Then there's the voice. Not what they say, but how they say it, especially around you. Do they match your case? Do they lower their tone when you're close? Do they stretch out words you stretch, pause when you pause, laugh in the same frequency? That's called vocal mirroring. It's the invisible symphony of human connection. When someone's attracted, their unconscious vocal cords adapt. High stress sharpens the voice. Attraction softens it. And when your voice becomes their metronome, when they slow down or speed up just to stay in tempo with you, you're not just talking, you're harmonizing. This isn't about manipulation, it's biology. Our brains mirror the people we feel emotionally connected to, especially when we're trying to build rapport, or protect the budding truth we don't have the courage to admit out loud. The nervous system's confession. Here's the deeper layer. The pattern isn't just behavioral, it's neurological. When two people emotionally sync, their autonomic nervous systems begin to align. Heart rates match. Breathing patterns fall into rhythm. Even brain waves begin to mirror. It's called interpersonal synchrony, and it's the biological proof of what your intuition has always felt. When someone's truly drawn to you, their entire body tunes itself to yours. It's not something you force. It's something that happens when the emotional environment is safe, magnetic, and vulnerable. And when it happens, even their silences will feel familiar. Even their stillness will feel loud. Even their smallest gestures will feel like a dance choreographed just for you. NLP and the stacked signs. You don't need to be a scientist, but if you want to truly see someone, really see them, you have to notice what they don't know they're showing. Here's how to decode the hidden script of attraction based on stacked patterns. A single sign means nothing, but 3 or more in a short window? That's confirmation. Here are a few of those signs. 1. Mirroring posture. They cross their legs after you do. They fold arms when you fold yours. They sit back when you do, lean forward when you lean in. Number 2. Eye movement synchrony. When you look away and back, so do they. Their blink rate matches yours. Number 3. Breath matching. Their breath unconsciously syncs with yours, especially in pauses. Number 4. Laugh timing. They laugh when you do, not always because it's funny, but because it's emotionally contagious. Number 5. Phrase echoing. You say something unique, and later, they use your exact words or expressions. Number 6. Subtle grooming. They fix their hair, adjust their clothes, touch their neck, signs of nervous excitement. Number 7. Directional body language. Even if their head is turned elsewhere, their hips or feet are angled towards you. None of these alone prove anything, but together, they tell the story. A story the other person hasn't said yet, maybe because they're afraid, maybe because they're unsure, or maybe they're waiting for you to notice. The pattern repeats. Here's the truth. Real attraction doesn't rush. It repeats. It circles. It returns. You'll find yourself catching them looking again. You'll hear them use your favorite phrase again. You'll see their body drift into your space again. Why? Because the heart doesn't always speak in declarations. Sometimes it speaks in loops. And once you start paying attention, you'll see the same signals in different moments, in different moods, but always leading back to the same feeling. They don't know they're doing it, but you do. And that makes all the difference. It was never just politeness. You doubted yourself. You thought, maybe they're just being nice. Maybe they're friendly with everyone. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But politeness doesn't repeat itself in such specific patterns. Politeness doesn't mirror your laugh, your words, your breath, your posture. Politeness doesn't look for you in a room and then pretend not to. This wasn't manners. This was magnetism. Subtle, echoed, unplanned, and yet unmistakable. Final symbol. The dance they didn't know they were dancing. Think of all the signs you've learned to see. The glance that lingers, the voice that softens, the silence that glues, the posture that leans in, the rhythm that adjusts. Now picture it all together. 2 people in a crowded world, circling each other like gravity, saying nothing obvious, but showing everything. Like dancers who didn't choreograph, but somehow still move in harmony. Like reflections that keep finding each other, even when the mirror is cracked. You don't need their confession. You already have it. Because real attraction doesn't announce itself. It repeats itself. Quietly. Faithfully. Invisibly. The body speaks, the eyes confess, the voice flirts, and the words build bridges. But the pattern tells you they're already with you before they ever say a word.